Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've put out a video over here. If you aren't aware, my main channel is just called Radix Verum. I think I have it linked on this one. I know I have this channel linked on my main channel, but I've been covering on the main channel the banking crisis. You know, I intended to have this channel be just where I do my financial news, but some of it is so important. It's critical breaking news. I have more subscribers over there and I want to get that information to them. But something interesting is happening. If you recall, just go back a couple videos ago, I did a video called The Collapse of Credit Suisse. And in that video, we went over several scandals plaguing Credit Suisse at the moment. And we made a prediction that we were going to see the collapse of Credit Suisse. And it looks like we could be seeing that now. You know, who knew that you couldn't do that forever, right? Haha, money printer, go burr, don't we wish? Well, you know, some people get bailed out. It just won't be regular people like us. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on with Credit Suisse. Before you go any further in this video, though, if you haven't watched the prior video called The Collapse of Credit Suisse, I'll link it in the video description. Pause this right now, go watch that first, and then come and watch this because it'll make a lot more sense to you. If you have the background information, you could see that this has been building for a while and was, you know, very predictable. Okay, so let's go ahead here and begin with this. This is from Wall Street Silver on Twitter. Credit Suisse now has a probability of default of 47%. That is up from 38% just a few hours ago. So in just a few hours, they have a 38% probability of default. That's boosted up to almost a 50% probability of default. That is crazy. Credit Suisse is also offering crazy deposit rates of 6.5% to attract and retain deposits that are being moved out. Do we see a bailout by this weekend? I hope not. Credit Suisse is a very old institution, though. I think it's around 170 years. It is one of the most well-known Swiss banks. So I don't know if this is one of those situations where it's sort of like too big to fail. But let's continue on here. Silicon Valley Bank had about 209 billion in assets. Credit Suisse has about 578 billion in assets. This is a much bigger problem in the making, and 100%. That's absolutely right. I've done a couple videos on Silicon Valley Bank on my main channel, the Radix Verum channel. If you haven't watched those, if you're not familiar with that scandal, I encourage you to go check those videos out. I try to do a decent job of explaining what's happening. Here she says, Credit Suisse stock plunges to an all-time low, down 96.7% from all-time high. That is just incredible. Credit spreads blowing up, and Saudi National Bank says they won't assist anymore. This bank is drowning fast. So that was one of their main shareholders, was the Saudis. So that is very interesting. No more money for Credit Suisse. This is what Saudi National Bank Chairman Amar Abdul Wahid Al Qawadri told Yusuf TV when asked about more assistance for the troubled lender. Let's take a listen.
The answer is absolutely not, for many reasons, outside the simplest reason, which is regulatory and statutory. We now own 9.8% of the bank. If we go above 10%, all kinds of new rules kick in, whether it be by our regulator or the European regulator or the Swiss regulator, and we're not inclined to get into a new regulatory regime.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. Continuing on here, we have an article from Fox Business. Credit Suisse shares hit a record low. The dip to a record low happened today. Credit Suisse fell further after hitting a record low on Tuesday. The bank reported Tuesday that, quote, certain material weaknesses in our internal controls over financial reporting had been detected, leading management to describe those controls as, quote unquote, not effective for 2021 and 2022. Oof. The disclosure was made before the dip to the record low Tuesday, with shares for the bank subsequently being priced at around 250 by the afternoon. That's bad. That is bad. The failure to design and maintain an effective risk assessment process to identify and analyze the risk of material misstatements in its financial statements and the failure to design and maintain certain effective monitoring activities were what the company said the weaknesses pertain to. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's move on. The bank says everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, predicted Monday Credit Suisse was the next bank to go because the bond market is crashing. He also noted he called it Lehman Brothers years ago. Well, as I said, it was not hard to predict that Credit Suisse was going to be in trouble. They have numerous scandals, as detailed in my prior video. The collapse of Credit Suisse. So breaking, Credit Suisse dollar bonds due 2026 plunged to distressed levels. Credit Suisse top shareholder rolls out more help to bank. Trouble in paradise, eh? Credit Suisse CDs reach a crisis level as banks seek protection. CDs are acquired by banks that are Credit Suisse trade counterparties. Credit Suisse 1-year default swaps near distress zone. Current level is 18 times the 1-year CDs for the rival Swiss bank UBS and 9 times Deutsche Bank. Oof, big oof. Continuing, Lee claims Credit Suisse has appealed to the Swiss National Bank and FINMA for help. This is no joke. Credit Suisse is on the globally systematically important bank lists. The list only has 33 banks, with 7 of them being Chinese state-owned banks. Big oof. Full story linked from financialtimes.com. Continuing. The Kobayashi letter says timeline of Credit Suisse collapse. 2009, they were fined $536 million for bypassing U.S. sanctions. In 2014, they were fined $2.6 billion for evading U.S. taxes. In 2021, they lost $5.5 billion due to risky exposure to Archegos fund failure. That is in my prior video. 2021 froze $10 billion in funds due to Greensill collapse. That's in my prior video. 2022 pleads guilty to defrauding investors over $850 million loan, fined $475 million. 2023 delays annual report to address accounting concerns from the SEC. 2023 Saudi National Bank said they will not provide further financial support. 2023 U.S. Treasury and ECB announced they are monitoring the Credit Suisse situation. Now Credit Suisse is asking the Swiss Central Bank for support. Their credit default swap premiums are trading above 2008 levels. At this point, they have dug their own grave. There are countless other fines and violations Credit Suisse has committed over the last 10 years. The number of quote-unquote second chances they've received is unparalleled. At some point, we need to let the markets naturally remove bad players. Absolutely. Continuing, I thought this meme was funny. Silvergate Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, Credit Suisse. Are you next? Probably. The market is screaming Credit Suisse is next. Yeah. It's not looking good. Credit Suisse sisters. Le Maire to speak with Swiss counterpart about Credit Suisse. Oh no. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire plans to speak with his Swiss counterpart in the coming hours to discuss the situation around troubled lender Credit Suisse Group AG, according to Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne. She told the Senate during government questions on Wednesday in Paris that the matter was the responsibility of the Swiss authorities and should be dealt with by them. Quote, concerning Credit Suisse, whose difficulties have been known for a long time, I note this bank does not belong to the Eurozone and is therefore not subject to European banking supervision. She says, we are very vigilant, but the situation is very different from what we saw in 2008. Okay. Sure it is. Continuing. Economist Nouriel Rubini, aka Dr. Doom, warns Credit Suisse might be too big to fail, but also too big to be saved. I thought
The
this was
problem is that
interesting.
Credit Suisse, by some standards, might be too big to fail, but also too big to be saved. It's not clear that, unlike the United States, the federal system has enough resources to engineer a bailout. And what they need
Oof.
certainly is more capital. And the question is whether they're going to get that capital or not. Otherwise, bad things can happen.
Yeah, you think? Otherwise, bad things could happen. Yeah, okay. Treasury Department reviewing U.S. banks' exposure to Credit Suisse. And I thought this was a good thread. After Silicon Valley Bank, if Credit Suisse collapses, it will be total mayhem worldwide, including the US. Will Credit Suisse collapse? The stock is now at $2. It was $80. Do the math. Exactly.
To the future. Oh, you don't have any glasses?
Ooh.
Just pretend. The future. The future.
Sorry to interrupt, but there are some policemen here. They say they need to speak to you about irregularities in the pension fund.
I see. Could you make me a cup of tea, please, Stephanie?
I'm sorry, but that's funny. That is absolutely funny. Number 2, Credit Suisse is the second biggest bank of Switzerland. It manages 1.6 trillion in assets worldwide. That is 1,600 billion. It's a lot of money. Imagine what happens in Wall Street if Credit Suisse collapses. If Credit Suisse collapses, what will happen? A run on banks worldwide? Who has the money to bail out a bank as big as Credit Suisse? That is a really good question. Also, Deutsche Bank is in very bad waters. Well, they have been for a while. Deutsche Bank has 75 trillion in derivatives. Derivatives equals a pile of junk and toilet paper. The U.S. debt is $32 trillion. The U.S. GDP is $25 trillion. Oh, you don't say. The U.S. debt is 128% of the GDP. That debt cannot be repaid. It's as simple as that. The U.S. is technically bankrupt. Well, what I would say is that is done by design. This is not an accident. Something like that does not happen accidentally. This is supposed to happen. The Federal Reserve is printing trillions from thin air just to repay the interest on the debt, thus devaluing the dollar. $100 of today equals $1 in 1913. That is a devaluation of 99% of the currency. The Federal Reserve is a private corporation, a private cartel since 1913. Yes, look into The Creature of Jekyll Island. There is a channel called, I think they're called Truth Stream Media. They have done tons of documentary style videos on the financial system that are really good. They're incredibly informative. They're very funny, and they go into all of the different bloodlines, like the Rothschild families, the Schiffs, etc. And they'll go into the real foundations of the financial system. And I really recommend that you watch their series on that. I think they have a whole series of it. It's called like Funny Money or something. I don't know, but it was really good. I remember that. Back to Silicon Valley and Credit Suisse. Will the collapse of Credit Suisse ignite a domino effect? Will the collapse of Credit Suisse generate an avalanche of bank collapses and bank runs? We know Dementia Joe is a pathological liar, don't we? We know he lies about everything. Why do you think Joe Biden says the banking system is safe? So we have a little clip here of him telling us
Good evening, everyone. President
everything
Biden
is fine. Biden, the system is safe. Don't worry. Nothing to see
was up
here.
early in front of the cameras before the markets opened this morning in a move to calm when you need them over the weekend.
Okay, so
banking, Jake
can have confidence that the banking system is safe.
Oh,
your deposits will be there when you need them.
His administration announcing Sunday night that
Right. When the gold peg was removed in 1971, it was a recipe for the disaster. The U.S. is backed by nothing, just an illusion. The only real currencies are physical gold and silver. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's true in a way. It's just that we knew, right? Like, we know that how this is. We know the whole thing is a Ponzi scheme, right? The central banking cartel, the Federal Reserve, we've all known this for a very long time. And these bankers are all corrupt. The problem, though, is that this is going to cause a global financial crisis that is going to hurt and affect regular people. People who didn't cause this and whose fault it is not. And that is concerning. Just try to remember, for some of you guys, you might be too young, but for some of y'all who are older, try to remember how bad and how difficult and dark and grim things were in the 2008 to 2010 timeframe. It got really bad. A lot of people lost everything. People lost their homes. There was a homeless crisis. That same thing can happen today because it is backed by nothing. The system is designed to fail every time we have a recession or a depression. It always ends up being a massive transfer of wealth every single time, from the poor people, the most vulnerable people in society, to the richest. That's always what happens. And then they're going to come in. It's their problem, reaction, solution. They'll come rushing in with the, oh, we've got a new financial system. We're going to start using central bank digital currencies. And this is the goal, right? More centralization of power. The other thing is consolidating power over these banks, right? Look at how many banks we used to have in the United States and how many banks we have now. It's like a few multinational banks. So you're taking these smaller banks, every time they fail or there's an issue with them, they get bought up by bigger banks, and then it's a bigger monster is created. It's just crazy all around. And I think that's another thing to consider when we're looking at what is happening right now with the banking crisis. Yes, it is because of a lot of your responsibility in the banking system, but there might be motivations of different people for different things, right? It could be some people are trying to consolidate their money, their wealth, their power. It could just be people taking advantage of opportunity and things like that. So anyways, that's my thoughts on this. This is not surprising, and I will continue to keep everybody updated on the situation. I hope you guys have a good day.